Okay, section 3, in which you need to rewrite decimals or percentage numbers or fractions in terms of each other. So a few things to remember. Percent means out of 100, and a decimal you can think of as being a fraction out of 1. So if you want to go from one to the other, it's just a simple question of multiplying or dividing by 100. So if you want to go from a decimal to a percent, it's times 100. If you want to go from a percent to a decimal, it's divided by 100. Another thing that you need to know is the basic fractions and their decimal equivalents. So most people know that 0.5 is the same as a half, that a quarter is 0.25, and from that you can figure out what 3/4 is, if you can't remember it. And then you should know that an eighth is 0.125, and from that you should be able to figure out things like 3/8, 5/8, 7/8. You should know that a tenth is 0.1, that a fifth is 0.2. You should know that a third is 0.333333 recurring. Okay, so if you say that a third is 0.3, you'd be wrong. 0.3 is 3/10, not a third. 0.33 is 33/100ths, not a third. So make sure you know the difference there. Okay, so 4/5. I know that 1/5 is 0.2, so 4/5 is 4 times as much, 0.8. 5/2, 5.5. So that's the same as 2.5. 2 goes into 5 2 times with an extra 1 left over, which is the same as 2.5. Don't ever write two answers to something, by the way, because if one of them is wrong, then you'll probably lose the whole mark. Okay, 15%, so to get that to a decimal, I divide by 100, and it's 0.15. Rewrite as decimals, 5 divided by 100. Okay, so divided by 100 is just easy, you move the decimal a couple of places, so it's 0.05. 30% as an ordinary decimal number, well, 30% means 30 out of 100, so I divide by 100 and I get 0.3. So 30% means 30/100ths, which is 0.3. And then a fifth, I ought to know, is 0.2. Then we've got May 2011, write as percent 3/5. Well, 3/5 is 0.6, because I know that 1/5 is 0.2, and that's the same as 60/100ths or 60%. 3/5 is 60%. And then 0.04, again, converting decimal to percent is just a question of multiplying by 100. 0.04 is the same as 4/100ths, which is 4%. So I just multiply the number by 100. And now we're all the way forward to May 2014. 1/8, you ought to know, is 0.125. 3/2 as a percent. 3/2 is the same as 1.5, or as a percent, 100 times as much, 150%. Now, another way of looking at that is to say 3/2 is the same as 300/200, or 150/100. Out of 100 means percent, so that's 150%. %30 as a fraction, well, I'll accept 30 hundredths, but I prefer it reduced to 3/10. Don't ever write two answers. If one of them's wrong, you could lose the mark. 12% as a decimal, just divide it by 100, 0.12, and then 7/4 as a decimal. 7/4. 7 divided by 4. In my head, when I divide by 4, I divide by 2 and 2 again. So I say that's the same as 3.5 divided by 2, which is the same as 1.75. So 7/4 is 1.75. And that's the answer, isn't it? So 7/4 just means 7 divided by 4.